It's 4 o'clock in Los Angeles. It's 6 o'clock in Chicago, and it's 7 p.m., and we're live in Philadelphia. Hello, everybody. It's Tuesday night. Mikey and the Mad Dog are on the air. Crank up your radio. Make it loud. Walk proud. We are here. Oh, my goodness, Mikey, we got a hell of a show tonight. We are here. We're going to be joined shortly by the spa guy, Billy Stallings. He's an amazing performer. Entrepreneur, hot tub salesman, you name it. This guy does it all. We're going to talk to Billy tonight, but before we do any of that, Mikey, how you doing? You settled back in Florida now?
Yeah, I'm back in Jacksonville, Florida. Today was, I guess, my second full day back, and just doing stuff, catching up back on life, And whenever you go on a road trip for a few weeks, you always manage to get behind on things, and so you got to kind of cram to catch back up, but I'm glad to be back.
Good. Well, it's great to have you back, Mikey. Sadly, we have to open up the show tonight with a bit of sad news. Let everybody know music icon Dolly Parton is dead at the age of 80. She was known as the Queen of Country Music. She is preceded in her passing by her husband, Carl Dean, who departed us about 8 months ago or so, right around 9 months. Dolly, of course, if you've been following the news on her lately, has been ill. She's been fighting a number of ailments, and I believe what the latest that I read is that this may have been the result of some sort of sepsis, which is nothing to mess with. So, Dolly, as Mikey and I would do, you get the 10-bell salute. So, folks, for a moment of silence for Dolly Parton. And of course, our traditional 10-bell salute whenever we lose someone or someone leaves us unexpectedly. That's what we would do in the wrestling world, and I would give Dolly that little bit of respect. Of course, she had quite a following.
Oh yeah.
I must admit. And guys know that I lived in Tennessee for a very long time. I've talked about it on the show a lot, and but I will tell you, in truth, I was never really, and I have to say this, Mike. I'm sorry, but I was never really like a Dolly fan. I just don't understand what it is. And I'm not saying that I'm hateful. I'm certainly not hateful, but I just never understood her appeal.
Well, I can.
And the other person that I feel equally about, and you probably know who I'm talking about, Mike, is a person named Reba McEntire.
Reba McEntire. Well, let me take on the Dolly Parton question.
Sure.
Because I would say I was just a casual fan, but as far as the 10-bell salute, I think Dolly would appreciate that because she did do that music video on her variety show with Hulk Hogan, "Headlock on My Heart," that we talked. Yes. I think we talked about that a few weeks ago, actually.
We sure did on our favorite songs.
So I think Dolly had an appreciation for wrestling, the spectacle, the Americana of it, and I think of Dolly. I think she had the same type of appeal in a different way than Betty White. If you remember that Betty White, late in her life, deep into her 80s and 90s, was becoming a go-to person for shows like Saturday Night Live or shows like Community or stuff like that, where Betty White could always come in and serve up a little bit of homespun comedy. And I think with Dolly, tonight before we went on the air, Angelo, I just dug up a YouTube video, Dolly Parton's funniest moments, and she's on talk shows like David Letterman and Conan O'Brien, and she's
Yeah.
just funny, man. She was funny. I think her looks helped, and she had kind of a self depreciation about her good looks. She said that when she was a young girl, there was an actual prostitute in her hometown that the women in the town always, scalded because this lady was a prostitute. And Dolly was enamored with this woman and her fashion sense. And Dolly blatantly said that she copycatted this prostitute lady for fashion, techniques, because that's what attracted attention. And Dolly, with I believe, on the shorter side of things, but uh, other measurements, made up for it, as she would jokingly talk about.
Yeah.
And things like, to me, I always think of Dolly with Jane Curtin and Lily Tomlin in 9 to 5 with Dabney Coleman and the
Love that
comedy.
movie.
Right. So, hey, there's something of Dolly you liked, and she was a big part of that movie. And the
Yeah.
song, the song 9 to 5, the theme song from the movie, was a big hit. It was such a big hit, Dolly's version of 9 to 5, that there was another song called 9 to 5 that had to change its title to Morning Train because Dolly's hit was such a big hit. You had two songs with the same title, and the other
Yeah.
song is the one that changed its name to Morning Train. Dolly was an icon. I'd say her decade was probably the 1980s, when everything was bigger, and everything's bigger in Texas. And I
Oh
believe she
gosh,
did a
yeah.
movie with Sylvester Stallone as well at some point. And
Best little whorehouse in Texas.
yeah, that was a big one of hers. I think that was with Burt Reynolds, and I've only seen the neutered version on free television when it was like the movie of the week type of thing. But
Yeah,
um,
that was with the one with Sty Stallone. I'm not
Rhinestone, was it
familiar with that.
Rhinestone? It might have been called
Oh,
Rhinestone,
Rhinestone. Okay, I got you. Okay,
but I don't
is
think
that
I've
where
seen that one either.
Stallone played like a country wannabe?
I think so, but I haven't seen the whole thing. Maybe I'll watch it now out of respect to Dolly, but I
Yeah,
haven't seen it.
interesting.
Um, I guess, like I said, Angelo, I would just be a casual mark. Me and my sister went to Dollywood once, but we stayed in the free area, like the gift zone and stuff like that. We didn't go into the park, but I'm not sure if Dollywood is still there. She used to have her own amusement park. I mean, that's pretty
She
wild.
still does. It's Dollywood is a major attraction, Mikey, and it's probably and this is no BS. It's probably the single largest economic intake in Sevierville, Tennessee, where it's located. Now I
Right.
know that area very very well. I spent a lot of time there. I lived just minutes from there when I was living in Tennessee, and I spent almost 15 years in Tennessee. I've been to several of Dolly's attractions, not the least of which is something I think you'll appreciate. Talk about spectacle. There's something called the Dixie Stampede, Mikey.
Okay.
And it's one of those places like they have here in New Jersey called Medieval Times, where you
Yes.
go in and you eat with your hands, and there's a chariot race. Well, in the Dixie Stampede, the chariot race is now bucking broncos and a horse race. So everything is it's now it's the the knights and the jousting and stuff has become, you know, who's going to win the war, the North or the South, and the North sits on one side and the South sits on the other.
Right.
And it's a lot of fun, and actually the food was really good. Um, it's a big place. It holds about 3,000 people, and they fill this place, Mikey, every single night.
Wow.
It's always, and I'm not even, you could go online and check it. I'm not even making this up. They fill this place every single night. there's a line to get into this place because you're getting a free show, really, is what you're doing because you're paying for the food.
Right.
But they get you going in, Mikey. When you go in, there's a rope line. You'll appreciate that being an actor. There's a rope
Sure.
line.
Yeah.
Takes you right to the photography photo op section where you can get your picture taken with a lifelike cardboard Dolly Parton cutout.
All right.
And it looks like you're standing with Dolly,
Yeah.
like they used to do with wrestling with Hulk Hogan and all the,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
characters. Anyway, so yeah, I remember you talked about that a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Headlock on Your Heart.
Yes.
I just remembered that. It's funny. Headlock on Your Heart with Hulk Hogan.
It wasn't.
Apparently, she liked him because she didn't she not have Hogan on her show and then had him back again for another appearance?
Well, what I
Or
remember
am I
is that.
missing the story?
Well, I think the story was that it was I think it was the very first episode of Dolly had a variety show that lasted maybe half a season or a full season, maybe 2 seasons at the most, and it was on one of the major networks back when there was only 3 major networks. And I think on the very first episode, she explained that a tabloid had printed an article that Dolly Parton was going to run off on a big romance with a professional wrestler. And it was, written from the point of view of one of these horoscope people, the Lady Jean back in the times, right? So basically, Dolly had some fun with it. So what she did was, for the variety show, she enlisted Hulk Hogan, and I'm assuming he had the consent and the the cooperation of the World Wrestling Federation at the time, and they made this cute music video called "Headlock on My Heart." And Dolly wrote this original song, and I don't know if it was ever released on an album or as a 45 or anything, but she made the song and she made the video where Hulk Hogan basically played a wrestler who was having an affair with Dolly Parton. And it was such a popular segment, Angelo, that I believe 2 weeks later they replayed it, because this was the time when I guess a lot of people did have VCRs, but a lot of people didn't, or didn't know how to operate them. And if you weren't expecting Headlock on My Heart to be such a funny bit, you wouldn't have thought to record it. So Dolly, as a gift to the fans or to the people that wrote in or however they corresponded, she did a replay of the exact same segment. I don't think Hogan was there he wasn't on the show per se, but he was in the video that was on the show. I think that's what we're thinking of.
Look, if you're in the video, you're on the show, you're still getting paid for it, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it was just a thing, buddy, where I think, like we said, things like 9 to 5 and the different movies and the talk show appearances and having Dollywood. And I think when, and like, I think her sense of humor, she's got the big wigs and the big boobs and the big shoes, and but a tiny petite woman with all these big things. I mean, that's America. I mean, that's at least it was at one point.
God
You know what I mean?
America, brother.
Right.
You're
So
absolutely right, Mikey.
yeah. So I mean,
1,000% right. Absolutely.
I think she was just one of those characters that when I was growing up, you had people like George Burns or Bob Hope and Dolly Parton and even a Sylvester Stallone and later on an Arnold Schwarzenegger, people that they kind of create a niche unto themselves. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think Dolly is one of those American originals that she created the mold for herself. She lived the mold, and she was Dolly until the day she died, which was today. So, I mean, more power to her and to her fans and family, of course, giving our best to them. But I think, to me, Angelo, she had a great run, and that's about all you can say for someone.
Oh, a hell of a run, brother. You're talking about a woman that started her career at the age of 16.
Right.
And she was discovered by a guy who I actually had the chance to meet and watch perform. His name was Porter Wagner.
Okay.
And he was the quintessential country music star, Mikey. This guy was 6'7", a tall drink of water, like they say down south. He was a tall glass of water, and just a thin, tall, white-haired guy, played the guitar, had a hell of a voice, singing, and he discovered Dolly in Sevierville, Tennessee. She was playing a guitar on her front porch,
Wow.
and his limo was driving by on the way to at that time the Grand Ole Opry, which was in Nashville. It's now in Donaldson, Tennessee. It's the new Grand Ole Opry. The original Ryman Auditorium is still used for special occasions, but he basically talked her parents that day into getting in the car, literally getting in the car with him that day, that moment, and driving to the Ryman Auditorium where she performed for the first time ever that night.
Wow.
In front of, like they say down south, in front of, God, Jesus, and all the saints.
Right.
Which is, and I don't understand why, Mikey, but that's just an expression they use.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of people.
Right.
Dolly was an interesting character. I'm not a hater on her. I never hate people like that. God bless their success.
Yeah.
Like you said, she had a hell of a run. Absolutely, God bless her, and may she rest well. But I never spent a dime on any Dolly merch, on her music. I saw a couple of movies. I thought she was, again, I'm one of those crazy people. I thought Dolly was a better actor than singer, only because I didn't like her voice. Like I don't care for Reba's voice either.
Sure.
I'm sure she's a wonderful person, but I lived in Tennessee for so long that twangy voice, it gets on my nerves. I was
Yeah.
married to a Southern woman, God rest her soul.
Right.
But that voice, when you have to live with that, it will make you crazy. It will absolutely.
So that's what did it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what did it.
That and four stepkids.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot.
No,
Well,
but God rest her soul.
Yeah.
The hard work is over now, Dolly. Go have a conversation with Jesus and catch up with your husband and make some more memories. Remember something, people, and I know I want to tell everybody. See, this is the spiritual side of me coming out. I am not jaded. People have said to me in emails, Mad Dog, you've seemed jaded lately. What happened to the kind, gentle Mad Dog? Yeah, we'll talk about that on some show, which I have to address it, but not tonight.
All right.
But I will tell you that in as much as people die and break hearts and leave this world, we never really die. That's the good news. We just transition.
Sure.
There's been not only philosophical, but physiological, theological, and scientific evidence now that we don't really die. The body dies, but the consciousness stays alive. So, take note, folks, that Dolly Parton's body may have left this world broken and frail, but I assure you that Dolly Parton's voice will find another vehicle by which to make itself known. And I point to one Mr. Bill Cherry as proof positive of what I'm talking about. Elvis Presley died 50 years ago next year.
Right.
Okay, 49 years ago. There's a guy named Bill Cherry who, if you did not know any better and you lived under a rock, you'd swear this guy was Elvis Presley.
Okay.
He looks like him. He sounds like him. He moves. He's got the same. And I don't think that this is in any way, shape, or form put on.
Right.
I think this is just the way this guy is. He was born with this face, the face that's behind you right now. He was born with that face, you know?
Right.
And he's got this voice that you can't duplicate. But somehow his voice is Elvis's voice. I think Elvis spirit, energy, whatever you want to call it, his consciousness found a body to reside in, as we all do. And I think that's what happens when we pass. We find other vehicles to occupy. You know, Mikey, you and I were talking about, I guess, a few shows back, talking about this, the idea of the time travelers, celebrity time travelers, and people that are cloned, replaced, that sort of stuff.
Right.
And it sounds fantastic on the surface, and it sounds, kind of bizarre on the surface. But if you apply the spiritual element, I think everything makes sense. I think let's be honest about it. There's only so many genomes that we have.
Sure.
You know, there are people. There's a guy somewhere in the world right now, probably a couple of them, that look identical to Mike Messier.
Uh-oh.
There's probably a half a dozen guys that look like me, God forbid, but it's probably true.
Right.
There is and this brings me to this kind of little tidbit I saw today, talking about Dolly. There's a website, Mikey, you're not going to believe it. It's called doppelganger.com. You can find your lookalike.
I think I saw a documentary about this on Australian PBS or Australian 60 Minutes, where people go and they register to see if they have a doppelganger out there in the world that also registers. And some of the results are pretty amazing, because not only do people look like another human being out there in the world, but sometimes there's a pattern where people that look like each other married a spouse around the same time. Their spouse had the same name as each other's spouse. They had the same amount of kids with the same genders. It's pretty outstanding. And then they actually, if we're thinking of the same thing, Angelo, and I think we are, they actually sponsor a doppelganger lookalike contest where they put the different doppelganger sets on display and people vote to see which set looks the most alike, and they have fun with it. So did you register yourself, Angelo? Did you register for the
no, but
catalog?
I'm thinking seriously about doing it, because I want to see the poor bastard that's got my face.
Right.
Mike, you were talking about this. You and I spoke, I guess, several years ago with Mike Williams and Vince Russo.
Yes.
And it's not so far-fetched, the idea of a look-alike.
Right.
Paul McCartney we were talking about on that particular show. We know that there were at least 3 people, 3 lookalikes for every Beatle. We know that.
Right.
Because we've got pictures of them all. The interesting thing is that there's actually a picture, and I believe it to be authentic. I don't believe it's been altered or photoshopped or AI. But there's actually a picture of Paul, the legit Paul, biological Paul McCartney, with this guy that we know now as William or Billy.
Right.
They have actually met. The Billy that we speak about, ladies and gentlemen, is a guy named William Shears Campbell, or William Campbell. William Shepard Campbell. His name Billy Shears, that the Beatles as a group took and wrote Sgt. Pepper's. That name is much more based in reality than people know. There was a band pre-Beatles, called Billy Pepper and the Pepper Pots.
Right.
Okay? Now, people don't understand that because they don't do their history, and a lot of times it's hard to find stuff. You and I know where to go. Billy Pepper and the Pepper Pots, okay. Sgt. Pepper, Billy Shepard, the whole bit. It's all connected. You don't have to be like All you got to do is like we get our guy Mike Lynch on it, Mister Connect the Dots. He'll put that shit together for us, like he did last night.
Right.
Um, but we should revisit some kind of like esoteric subject matter like that. It's interesting conversation, and it's fantastical. I will admit, folks, it's fantastical. But you know what? Some of the strangest shit in life is real. That you can't. I keep telling people, Mike, you hear it on the show all the time. You can't make this shit up.
Well, buddy, like I say it a few times on the show, Angelo, people believe in dinosaurs but not dragons. And why is that? Because of the fire, or because we've been told in our books that the dinosaurs existed and dragons are a myth? But what's the real difference? You know what I mean? So
I will tell you something. I want you to think about something. I want, and I'm going to go way back in time, back to biblical times. The people who talk in scriptures and in the Quran, the Torah, the book of Q, all of these old scripture books, they talk about angels and they talk about the gods descending from the heavens, okay?
right,
And they draw pictures in rocks and things like that. They drew what they saw. People don't, that you got to understand what I'm talking about. They drew what they saw. If they saw something that looked like an angel that happens to us to resemble an airplane, because an angel has wings, so does an airplane. If you look at an airplane in the sky, it looks like it's got a head. It looks like it's got these things sticking out. It looks like it's got a couple of feet, the
right.
tail. It's not so bizarre if you think about it.
No,
So why is it so unusual to think about dragons? Because they drew dragons. They drew pictures of dragons. How do we know what a dragon looks like were it not for some cave drawing? What this thing with a snout that looks like a horse that breathes fire?
right,
Because they draw the fire coming out of the mouth. We know now that dragons physiologically were real.
right,
And they even can explain the so called fire breathing. There are certain creatures, even now today, living on planet Earth, whose breath comes out in the form of a smoke or a vapor. Okay?
yeah,
If you're not familiar with that and you see smoke, you think fire, because where there's smoke, there's fire, isn't there?
yes.
It's not so bizarre, folks. Just put your common sense hat on like Big Daddy did tonight.
What's your
Um,
what's your take on evolution, Mad Dog? Are you an evolutionist, or a creationist, or
I am not an atheist, nor am I completely convinced that there is a singular deity. Um, and the only reason I say that is because we're learning more and more about the Bible scientifically that's actually proving the very first chapter of the Bible. We created man in our image. And that doesn't say I created man in my image. It says we, plural, not singular.
right,
Okay? You take that for what you will. But I've always considered myself Gnostic. I am always will be Gnostic. I've never been. I have in times in my life called myself an atheist, but not truly believed it.
okay,
Because and I'll tell you why. It's much harder not to believe in something than it is to believe in something.
right,
I don't know. It's going to be interesting because you and I have a guy coming on in about 2.5 weeks, actually. You and I have a guy coming on named Russ Briot. that's going to talk about this piece of cloth called the Shroud of Turin.
Okay.
That's going to change a lot for me because I'm going through like a crisis of faith here over the last 8, 10 months because of something a preacher said to me
Huh.
that made me doubt my entire faith.
Wow.
Yeah, and we're going to have that conversation. Um, yeah, we're going to have that conversation big time.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, yeah. There's a lot about me that my audience knows, Mikey. You're going to catch up on it real quick.
All right. Very good.
You're going to catch up on it real quick, brother.
Very
Um,
good.
yeah, it's going to be an interesting show. I don't. I think it's much more difficult intrinsically, philosophically, to believe in nothing than it is to believe in something. Because how do you prove the existence of nothing? It's
Right.
impossible to do. You
Well,
can't do it.
let me ask you this, because I don't know if it's the same thing or if you were making a differential on purpose. But you said Gnostic. Is that the same? I'm familiar with the word agnostic. Is that the same? Is that the same thing, or are you making a difference between Gnostic and agnostic?
It is the stellar opposite. And
Okay.
agnostic, a person who is agnostic, and let me differentiate between agnosticism and atheism. Atheism is real cut and dry. It's the belief system that there is no physical or spiritual deity, good, bad, or indifferent. There's no God, there's no devil, there's no angels, there's nothing.
Right.
That's what an atheist believes. Let's eliminate that from the equation. However, agnosticism is the belief that you can choose to worship your God, but I don't believe in that God. Okay?
Right.
Someone who is agnostic doesn't believe in the existence, they believe in the spirituality, but they don't believe in the physical existence of that deity. For example, Moses went to the top of the mountain
Okay.
and met God face to face. God's face was so bright it burnt Moses' skin. Okay, so but then that turned his hair white. Okay, the presence of God turned Moses' hair white and turned his skin burnt red. All right, so now that's what the presence of God. But God was and is physical. Okay, so then why the existence of Jesus? Okay, because there were a lot of people who didn't believe that God was real. So God said, "Hey, I want to make something that you'll have to believe because it's one of you.
Right.
I'm going to impregnate a woman with my seed, and I'm going to create a little baby, and that baby's going to be called Jesus, or Yeshua is his real name, Yeshua, because there's no J in Hebrew. It's Yeshua. Okay, so which also, interestingly enough, the word Yeshua means Joshua, but it also means John. So that's a controversy.
All
Is
right.
Jesus really Yeshua, or was John of the Bible really the Savior?
John the
We're going to
Baptist. We're
have that.
talking.
Yeah, we're going to have that conversation.
All right.
But a Gnostic, someone like me, a Gnostic believes in the wisdom of the prophets. The wisdom. The word Gnostic means wise ones. Okay. The word agnostic means lacking wisdom.
Okay.
Okay. Because if you're going to believe, it's just common sense. If you're going to believe in the spiritual element, but you're going to choose to disbelieve the physical element, then you're clearly not acting wisely. Therefore, you're acting agnostically,
Right.
without wisdom. Okay. One of the things, and everybody who watches the show knows this, I'm a Bible scholar. And have been for 45 years. I know the Bible. I know it well. Um, and the Bible can come down this all 66 books, which by the way are not a complete Bible. Because the Bible, if you complete the Bible, there'd be about 300 books in it.
Right.
They eliminated so many at the Council of Nicaea. I digress. But to get back onto track, if people understood how the Bible was laid out, why it was set up the way it is, you understand that they did what they did to create this rhythmic pattern, to create a flow. A lot of the things are not in order. You would expect a book from the beginning to the end to read like, like we write a book now. The Bible was not put together that way, and it was never intended to be put together that way. They put together stories by order of importance, not in chronological order.
Okay.
So, God's message, the most important messages, were in what's called the Mosaic books, the first chapter, the first half of the Bible, the so-called Old Testament. Okay? Now,
Right.
the new teachings, the Jesus era, is the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, all the way to Revelation. All right, so now follow me there, which is pretty cut and dry. Makes sense. Old Testament, New Testament. Okay, here's the problem, though. You have to, if you're reading the New Testament, you will find yourself repeatedly going back to the Old Testament for clarification.
Right.
Why didn't they do that in the New Testament to begin with? Simple. They couldn't, because Jesus had not been born yet. Jesus clarified everything in the new scriptures by telling the people to follow this word, follow my Father's word. I bring you a new testament, is what Jesus said. I bring you a New Testament. But the books that were already written in the Old Testament, those were the inspired, divinely inspired word of God, if you believe that.
Let me ask you this.
Interestingly enough, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mikey.
So, were people reading the Old Testament at the time of Jesus's arrival? And if so, what did they refer to it as? Just the Testament or just the
They called
Word?
it they called it the Holy Q.
All right.
It was called the Holy Q because
QUE.
the Q was from the word Quran. It was called the Book of Q.
Okay.
Okay? The Quran, the Torah, and the Bible are essentially the same book. If you include all the books that were omitted from the Bible, you would have the full Torah and the full Quran. Okay? The Quran is Muslim, the Torah is Hebrew, the Bible is Christian,
Right.
but it's all the same stuff. I'm going to go you one better. 500 years, they say, they estimate between 500 and 900 years prior to the Bible, there was a book written called the Epic of Gilgamesh
Okay.
that talks about a flood taking over the world, a man building a giant boat to gather animals 2 by 2. Sound familiar?
Yes.
Okay. The birth of a savior. Sound familiar?
Yep.
Interesting. Here he is. He's here. Billy Stallings, a spa guy. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, but I'm the spa guy, not the spay guy. I don't.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh my goodness.
But it's okay to spay and neuter. That's okay.
Well, almost, brother. I'll tell you what. I must have hit. I must have hit the word. Trying to put the word spa guy to make one word out of it. There you go. He is the spa guy.
Yeah, and I'm sorry I'm late, guys. I was trying my
Oh,
best.
brother, you never have to apologize. We were actually having. It's interesting, Billy, that you came in at this point, because Mikey, my friend Mikey Messier,
Are you?
filmmaker, actor. Um, Mikey, this is Billy Stallings. Billy's a returning guest. Been a while since we got together, my friend. So I got to get with you here and talk with catch up on everything Elvis and
Of course.
what's
Yes, sir.
happening in my adopted hometown of Memphis. Welcome to the show. We were just talking about Mike and I were just talking about the construction of the Bible
Okay.
and why it was put together the way it was, and having very spirited, pardon the pun, very spirited conversation on scripture. Um,
So
but you
how
came
the
in at a great.
66 books happen and the canons and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just telling Mike, I said if you took the books that were omitted from the Bible, instead of 66, you'd have damn near 300 of them.
Yeah.
There was a lot of there was a lot of them removed.
And a lot of people are
Billy,
still
welcome.
referring back to the book of Enoch and those kinds of things.
Yes.
And so I stay away from all that stuff. That's just my personal opinion. So
Yeah, I'm with you, brother. I'm with you. But Billy, you familiar with the Epic of Gilgamesh?
yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. Now that precedes the Bible. That what, by 500 to 900 years is about right? They say.
Yeah, I don't know anything about dating of it, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting book because it talks about a world flood and the birth of a savior and all this crazy stuff. It kind of mirrors the Bible in a lot of ways. But let's
Yeah.
get off of that one, friend. Welcome. It's nice to have you back here, brother.
Yes, sir.
Nice
Great
to
see
have you back. Let me tell everybody who you are. This is Billy Stallings. He is known affectionately on the internet as the Spa Guy. Why? Well, I'll tell you why. Because
Yeah.
Billy builds spas, and he is the undisputed, uncrowned but still champion of the spa world. He is a man who will take your dreams, your specifications, and build you the spa the spa to die in, as he says. This is a spa I could die in. Well, if if there's too much hot water, you might
or to live in. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
well, I'm in the hot tub business. That's how I make a living. Yes.
Yes, sir. Um, it's been a while since you've been here. First of all, let's catch up on Billy. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing fantastic. Yeah.
I see that you have, rather than stay home and count your money, which would take you an indefinite period of time, you're taking your money and buying crazy stuff like karate studios. I want to talk to you. I want to bring you up on the big camera here because I want people to see you. You got this happy face. I want people to know who you are.
Yeah.
Um,
That is
let's-
a hobby. And it's a business, a real business, but it is in fact a hobby. I just love the Elvis story. I think it's an interesting story, and so
It
I started
is
making
indeed.
videos about the story years and years ago. I filmed the first time at Graceland, 1988,
right.
and really got serious about it about 10 years ago as far as filming stories. And I just actively look for things that you've never heard of. That's what I'm looking for. So the people that have been interviewed 5 million times, I don't really talk to them, or I'm not opposed to it, but I don't seek them out because I don't think they have anything new to add. So
Yeah.
I seek the people out that nobody knows about, and stories that nobody knows about, things that I find interesting. And I've had a lot of fun doing it. I've been lucky to film over in Europe and all the Elvis stuff in Germany, and he was in Paris. I've been to France. I've been to all the Colonel stuff in the Netherlands, and Elvis stuff all over the United States. I've been very fortunate.
As you are one of those people that you are a truth seeker, you are an adventurer. You're one of those people, to your credit, much to your credit, that is putting the Elvis story together the way it was supposed to be from the beginning. It's been so, this man has been so maligned, not only in life, but more so in death. But there is something happening, Billy. It's a remarkable movement that's happening. There are more Elvis fans now in 2026 than there ever were during Elvis's lifetime. And many of them, thanks to AI and the internet and the ability to research and listen to his music, many of them are under the age of 40, which is staggering to consider that. To give everybody an idea, I'm 67. Okay, and I'll be 68. Lord willing, the creek don't rise. But I had a chance in 1977, May 28th, 1977. It was my first day in radio, and I met Elvis Presley that day. I met it was my, and I told Mikey the story a couple of weeks ago. My first day in radio, and the guy says, "DeCipio, yes sir, we're sending you to the Spectrum." Yes sir. Okay, what am I doing? You're going to cover the Elvis Presley concert. Oh yes sir. I'm there. If you don't even have to pay me, I'll go. Well, Billy, I stood this close to Elvis. I said to her, "Mr. Presley, may I shake your hand, sir?" He puts his glass. I told Mikey the story. He pulls his glass down. It's 9:30 at night. Okay, 9 o'clock at night. Pulls his sunglasses down and says, "Son, I'm Elvis. Mr. Presley, my daddy." And he pointed at Vernon standing next to him. Vernon started laughing. And he goes, "Yes, sir, you can shake my hand, son." So I shook Elvis's hand that night. And I became friends that night with a young man named Charlie Hodge, who was Elvis's kind of everything guy, his go-to. Did you know Charlie at all,
I
Billy?
sold autographs with Charlie, so I sold autograph pictures and books and all that stuff. Yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful.
yeah. I would go
How
see
did you?
Charlie at Memories Theater in Pigeon Forge
Oh,
and pick
so
up the
you knew?
books and all that. Yeah.
Did you knew Michael and Dee?
Um.
Michael Ferrera and Dee Gallatin, his sister?
No, no. I've never met them. This would have been early 2000s, so
Oh, okay. So yeah.
it would have been way,
So
way, way back. Yeah.
was Lou Vudo part of that?
No, it was the guy before Lou. I was trying to think of his name.
Probably Eddie Miles,
It
maybe.
was Eddie Miles. Yeah. So
Okay.
it was Eddie and Charlie there. And what I would do
Yeah.
is go and have him pre-sign some books and pictures, and I'd just pick
Yeah.
them up. A lot of times I'd see a show, see Charlie after, get him to do some personalized stuff for me
Yeah.
and that kind of stuff. Now I knew Scotty much better than I knew Charlie.
Okay.
Scotty I spent a lot of time with, and I got personalized autographs. At least once a month, I go sit at Scotty's house and say, "I need you to sign this picture and that picture." I sold
Yeah.
thousands of Scotty items. Uh,
Right.
Charlie, I probably sold hundreds.
Yeah.
Maybe 200 items, 300 items, something like that.
Yeah. I had Charlie Hodges TCB necklace.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's
I do.
cool.
Charlie was a great guy, good friend. Um, you and I have never talked about how you got into this, so deep into this, the world of Elvis. So let's go. Let's
Mhm.
take that journey. Where did this start, Billy? I mean, really, for in earnest, where did this begin for you?
Okay, well, I mean, you want to go back to the very beginning, or do you want to go to the
Yeah, I want
beginning
to
of the
know how
internet
you
stuff?
got so entrenched in this. Like,
Okay,
I
all
mean,
right.
there's no escape for you now, brother.
I'll give you the short story. I was about 10 years old, 1975. I lived in Winterville, North Carolina, which is outside of Greenville, North Carolina. Most people would recognize Greenville, ECU, East Carolina University in Greenville. And a kid that I went to school with, his name was Troy Robinson, and his dad owned a local jewelry store. So I thought they were rich, and we were very, very, very poor. And he lived about 2 blocks from me, or a block and a half. So Troy invited me to his house one day. Going back now as an adult, the house was very small, their house. We lived in a single wide trailer. Um, but I would have been, what, seventh grade. And anyway, Troy invited me to his house. I remember walking in his bedroom. I could still see the records. When we walked in, he had records stacked up in a corner, not laying flat, but standing up. And they were about 2 feet wide. And I thought, wow, that's an extraordinary number of records. And I said, well, what is that? He said, well, that's my Elvis record collection. And I was like, oh, so Elvis, because everybody knew who Elvis was. It was a household name, of course.
Sure.
But I had never collected Elvis records or been interested on that level in anything. But he had been doing that. And I guess on some level they were wealthy because he was able to amass this collection of records.
Sure.
And he pulled out Aloha from Hawaii, showed me how it folded open like that. And he put it on the turntable, and we're sitting there looking at the album cover, and he pulls the sleeves out, and we're looking at it. And I'm telling him, I'm loving the music. I'm kind of interested. So he sold me the cassette of Aloha for $1. And I didn't even have $1. So he sold it to me on credit. And so I remember taking that cassette home. And back then you had a cassette player that was the kind you put the cassette in and push it down. They were this big. And my grandma and granddaddy were antique collectors. My granddaddy owned a radio and television shop. In fact, a lot of the reason I love history and I love collecting antiques and stories and all that is because of my grandparents. Their house was a museum. So the reason I'm saying that is my granddaddy always made sure I had plenty of record players and tape players and all that stuff. So that's where I got that tape player from. So I remember going home and putting that in, and I would lay on it in my bed and listen to it. Fell in love with the music, of course. The Aloha concert's phenomenal, as you know.
Yeah.
But back then there wasn't a whole lot of information about Elvis. As far as after Elvis died, there was books and magazines in every store, in the grocery store, in the convenience store, in the Family Dollar. It was everywhere. But prior to 77, it was a little harder. And I remember checking a book out. In fact, I think I bought the book from, what was it called? Scholastic Readers or something like that. Where
Junior Scholastic.
Junior Scholastics. That's it. They had an Elvis book.
Yep.
And I bought the Elvis book, and I think I still have it somewhere. But it seemed like it had a black cover with his picture on it. And I read that. But after he died, I got a lot of my information from all the magazines. In fact, Ginger Alden got mad with me because I kept referring to her as Elvis's girlfriend. And I had to explain to her, instead of Elvis's fiance, and I had to explain to her, my first exposure to you, Ginger, was magazines where they called you Elvis's girlfriend. I was 12 years old in 1977 when Elvis died. So my first time ever hearing about you was in a magazine, and then me seeing you in the magazine and then calling you Elvis's girlfriend.
Yeah.
So I just always loved the story, and I played music. As you can see, I live in Nashville. I was a touring musician. I played, I fronted bands, I sang, I did a lot of stuff, all because of Elvis. I was just an Elvis fan, and I love music. And my dad played guitar and sang and all that, so he was an inspiration as well. But Elvis was kind of the thing that I wanted to be Elvis, like everybody wanted to be Elvis. And there's only going to be one. But anyway, fast forward, my experience with Elvis has been that you can't dabble in Elvis. Either you're all the way in it or you're all the way out of it.
Absolutely.
So there was years that I was all the way out of it. I got married in 1987. My wife and I'm still married. We'll celebrate our 40th anniversary next February.
Wow.
And we took our first trip, my first vacation from a real job, July of 1988 to Memphis. I worked at a Ford dealership. I bought a brand new Ford Thunderbird Turbo Coupe. silver, drove it straight to Graceland. I took no-dos to keep awake because I worked all week and I left Friday night and I was popping no-dos. And for people that don't know what that is, it's a thing you could buy over the counter that's basically caffeine tablets.
Yeah.
And I took so many of them that I got sick. We ate in, I didn't want to sleep. I wanted to get to Memphis. I dreamed about it for years and kind of romanticized the story. We stopped on Demombrian Street in Nashville. We stopped and ate at a Shoney's Inn, which was, or ate next door to the Shoney's Inn, which was a motel on Demombrian or a hotel on Demombrian. There was a Shoney's next door. And I ate the breakfast buffet, and I had taken so many no-dos that I got sick from it. And I never ate a breakfast buffet at Shoney's again, although it wasn't their fault. It was my fault. But we kept driving. So we get to Memphis. I can't believe I'm there. We check in the hotel, and we go and look and et cetera. And I don't even remember what I did the first day, but I did take a camera with me. And I did film a little bit, and a few of those excerpts are on my channel. That night, I jumped the fence at Graceland. I've got picture proof of it. It's in my museum. I tell the whole, there's a video of me. But I had romanticized it so much that I wanted to be part of the story. So I had just envisioned and read all these stories about the go-karts, the snowmobiles, and all these things. And I jumped on the right front corner and went down the fence, went behind the graves. They've got that little round thing, the rock wall. Went behind the graves, went all the way to the far right corner beside Vernon's house, and even took a picture of Vernon's pool. The picture of Vernon's pool actually came out pretty good. And went in that barn on the right rear corner, and they had, back then there was a lean-to on one side, and the three-wheelers were under the lean-to, and the golf carts. There was go-karts under there. The snowmobiles were inside of the barn, just stacked up. Those orange snowmobiles that Elvis had taken the runners off and put wheels on the front. Because I read stories about them playing Crash 'em Up Derby with those. And, and I remember the wood had swollen up like that where you could see through the boards that had lap siding. And there was one light bulb hanging in there and it was on. And so I could see the snowmobiles. I never went in the building, but I did go in it sat on the golf carts and all the stuff under the lean-to. Now, back then, when you went to the house, it seemed like they had one snowmobile out, and they had you could sit in the studs, believe it or not. The door was unlocked. You could just open the door and sit in it. And Gladys's Cadillac and the Jeep was back there, but all of the other stuff that you see now, most of it was in that barn. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I did take some photographs. I did not know to take a tripod. And, of course, I probably wouldn't have taken a tripod, but I could have set my camera on a fence post or something. So the shots are squiggly, but you could still make out the racquetball court in the back of Graceland and all that. I went back around the front of the house. I did not go up to the graves. I walked up and looked at the graves, but I didn't walk up to them because it's so lit over there. But I went around and took a picture of the guard shack, the one that's there by where you get off the bus on the right side of the house. Yes, but sir. That didn't really come out good enough for me. I have the picture, but it wasn't good enough to put in the museum. But anyway, that's kind of a background. So fast forward in and out of the Elvis story. I went like 88, 89, 91, 93. Then I had kids. My son was born in 90 and my daughter in 93. So the trips to Graceland kind of stopped, and then I was playing professionally in a band and just didn't have time. I was working full time, playing 140 dates a year with my band. So I was very, very busy. So I was just kind of out of it. So we moved to Nashville at the end of 1999. And I did that to play music and ended up not doing what I came here to do. But, it's tough, man. There's a lot of talented people around the world, Yeah. Regionally, you could stick out. When you go to Nashville, everybody that's the best of the best come here. So it's hard to make your way, especially if you're not as good as they are. And I, clearly wasn't as good as some other people, but I did tour. I have an album out, a Christian album. I toured, opened for a band called Jackson Heights, a Christian country band. So I got to do some of the things that I dreamed of. I played bass at church. for many, many, many years. I worked in the bridge ministry for 13 years, which is a Nashville thing under the Jefferson
Yeah.
Street Bridge. So anyway, in 2015, I think it was, my daughter got married. And I may be wrong about 2015. It may have been 2016. Somewhere along in there, she got married and they moved to Memphis. He was in medical school. Prior to that, I'd always come to Memphis as a tourist. After they got married and moved to Memphis, of course, we're going to go see our daughter. So about once a month, we would come to Memphis. My wife and her would go shopping. The son-in-law is studying for medical school. And by the way, he's an anesthesiologist now, so he got through medical school and all that. They live in Nashville as well.
Beautiful.
And,
Your daughter
and
married well.
yeah, yeah, she did very well, but she was a school teacher. They met in college. They met at University
Oh,
of Tennessee.
beautiful.
Yeah, and we have 3 grandbabies. Our latest one is 6 weeks old today. A little boy named Noah. So we have 2 little girls and a little boy.
God bless
Ainsley,
you. Congratulations, Billy.
And could not be happier. So anyway, we would go to Memphis, and about once a month they would do their thing. I'd find myself there with nothing to do. And so I already had a YouTube channel doing hot tub stuff. So if you go look, you'll find me moving hot tubs, me repairing hot tubs. You'll even find hot tub repos where I repoed hot tubs. So I was doing hot tub stuff on YouTube. So I've got good camera equipment, good drones, all that kind of stuff. And one weekend I was in Memphis and I thought, I don't have anything to do. I'm going to ride over to Graceland. I wonder what's down Elvis Presley Boulevard past Graceland. What's down there? I'd never gone past the Days Inn. There's a Days Inn caddy corner. If you walk out of Graceland and look over to your left, caddy corner, there's a Days Inn on the corner, a little motel. I've stayed there before, but I've never really gone past it. So I went past it and saw the mall down there, the South Haven Mall, where Elvis bought the dogs, he bought all the dogs at the pet shop, where he watched the last movie, the Southbrook 4, which I didn't know at the time. But, I'm down there looking at stuff. Then I'm riding around behind Graceland. I saw the house that Vernon lived in, that Elvis, bought him, that built on Dolan. The house he gave Linda, the house that they lived in prior. So I'm back there looking, and I saw Vernon's house. And at the time, I had about 3,500 subscribers on YouTube for hot tub stuff. Mm-hmm. So I was trying other things because I loved Adam the Woo. He was my favorite YouTuber, and I loved how he told stories and the formula that he used. So I was kind of using that formula to do, to try stuff, different history things. And so I thought, well, I'm going to film. I bet a lot of people don't know that Vernon's house is there on Dolan. When they come to Graceland, if I tell them, they'll come see the house. So I flew my drone. I took my camera out. I made a video. I put it on the channel the next week. And I got 30,000 views the first month. So I thought, okay, I'm on to something here. So I made then I started studying stories. And the second video that I did was I speculated in it and I got it all completely wrong. But what it was is that photograph of Elvis walking through the parking lot at Madison Cadillac in a jumpsuit, wearing house shoes with Linda and Billy and Dick Grove behind him.
It's a very strange picture, Billy. It really, really is.
It is a strange picture, but I looked at it and I thought, I bet I can find this. So I found, I looked up the dealership and I went and I found it the next time I went to Memphis, told the story. So that was my first experience going and finding something like that, Elvis related.
Yeah.
And so I was able to find it, and it lined up perfect. It was right there. So I told the story, and I speculated, got it all wrong, but I was later able to ask Linda and Billy and Dick Grove what really happened that day. And it turns out that he was there to give away cars, and because of a thing that happened with some Lincolns he purchased, and he sent them back, and, that sort of thing. But that's kind of the short version of where it all started.
Yeah.
And I just kept making videos. I put at least one Elvis video out a week for 10 years. Some weeks I put 3 out.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'll tell you in full disclosure, I was an early follower of that for a couple of reasons. You were able to do, and still today, you're able, and you're a very disarming individual. You people like talking to you, and I have to find out what your secret is because people are afraid when I when I talk.
Yeah.
You're a very disarming individual, and they're not afraid to open up to you,
You
and you
know,
have that.
and I'm not saying that because anything about me, but I have been very fortunate that when I talk to people about stuff, they seem to want to help me. And I don't know what that is. But one thing I think maybe they can understand the honesty of it all. I'm not there for nefarious reasons. I'm there because I really want to know.
Yeah.
And so maybe that comes through. I don't know, but I've
I'll
been
tell you
very
who
fortunate.
else really wants to know is my co-host Mike Messier. Mikey really wants to know. He wants to get inside Billy's head. So, Mikey, ask questions, my friend. Go for it.
Well, Billy, I was watching your YouTube channel today, the Spa Guy, I believe it's called, and
Yes, sir.
it's to me it was Elvis is the focus, but there's other stories beyond Elvis, and it kind of felt like a Memphis or a Southern lifestyle channel, which is pretty interesting because you have kind of stories of interest to that area, um, of all types of stories, and one of them that's not Elvis. I believe the guy's name is Buford Pusser.
Buford
Buford
Pusser,
Pusser.
yeah, yeah, he was a
Yeah,
famous sheriff. Yeah,
and that's the Walking Tall narrative, the films that were based on this guy. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I was watching a press conference that you videotaped, but was the story that the whole myth was based upon that these guys assassinated his wife trying to kill him, and now they're reopening the case and thinking that maybe Buford actually did the crime himself, and so this whole mythos or myth or legend about this guy is a vengeful, you know, man done wrong type of thing could all be misconstrued. And
it
correct me if I'm
was.
wrong there, but
Well, no,
what's
no,
going
no.
on with
You're 100% right. So the way that thing was presented in the 70s, and by the way, there's an Elvis tie to it. The very first Walking Tall movie, Red West played one of the sheriffs in the movie, and that would have been 72 or 73. So that was, he full blown. He's Memphis Mafia, but he's the sheriff in this movie.
Hmm.
Um, but and the other myth is, as an Elvis tie, is that if you go to his house in Adamsville, Tennessee, they will tell you that Elvis came to his funeral, but he
Wow.
didn't. And he came to the house and sat in a room and all that. It's just not factual. And the way we know that is at the time Elvis was playing 2 shows a night in Las Vegas. So if you look at the timeline, there's no way that Elvis could have flown there, sat around, talked to people in the house, as they say. And it was actually the daughter. She's passed away now, so I feel a little more at liberty to say the things I'm saying. But she claims that Elvis came and was in the house, and she may have fantasized about it. And you know how you could fantasize and tell yourself a story to a point where you actually believe it.
Yes.
But the reality is if you look at the way the timeline would work, it's not possible. Two things are not possible, I believe. It's not possible for Elvis to have been there and played 2 shows that night and the night before in Las Vegas. First, second, if Elvis was in Adamsville, Tennessee, when all that went on, there'd be photographs of it, a lot of photographs. It wouldn't have been some secret where he slid in a back door and nobody saw him.
Right.
And plus, he would have always had an entourage. It wouldn't have just been Elvis showing up. And you can't find any instance of anybody else in the story, any other entourage. Red would be a perfect example of a person that would have probably been involved in that because he knew Buford. And Elvis didn't like Buford. But that's a completely different thing. So to go to your thing, the Walking Tall story was a story of a sheriff that was in, and I'm gonna give myself a disclaimer here. This is my opinion, okay? But I believe that what my opinion is true, but it's still my opinion. He was it was a story of a sheriff that was taking on a county. It was a county sheriff of McNairy County, Tennessee. But he was a sheriff that had gone into this county to clean it up, to rid it of alcohol, of all these nefarious things. The reality of it is he was clearing out competition because he was selling liquor and he was involved in that. And what happened was he was fighting with his wife. And I'll even say that I've got a couple of podcasts with a guy named Mike Elam. Mike would be a great guest for y'all to have on. He's a good dude, very, very smart. He was a cop for a period of time. And he took on the Buford Pusser story like I've taken on the Elvis story, where he basically has studied it for the last 30 years. And he went out and found all of the people and interviewed them and got their stories and started kind of reverse engineering the story to the point where he actually found what he believes is the murder weapon.
Wow.
He contacted the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the TBI, let them know that he found the murder weapon, who had it, how they got it, et cetera, and was able to actually get the case reopened. So it's one of us, guys, a YouTuber, that got this case reopened, and through hard work and a lot of putting himself in harm's way, because people have strong opinions about Buford Pusser. People will harm you over Buford Pusser.
Right.
Absolutely.
And he's had death threats and all kinds of stuff. But I've had death threats as far as that goes, but I think the truth is worth it. And so what he did was got this thing reopened, gave them all of his information, all of his findings, and they basically came out in the thing that you saw. I was there with Mike, and he invited me to come. And basically they said that if Buford Pusser was alive today, that they would put the case before a grand jury because they believe that they have enough evidence to put it before a grand jury and probably have a trial, and they feel like he was guilty of killing his wife.
It seems to be the consensus. It really seems to be the consensus here among not only the experts but among the media that
When did
Mikey, when the media gets a hold of a story and that's got some legs to it, they don't let go.
Billy, when did he pass away? When did Buford pass away?
Buford died in, well, I'll tell you 74 would be my guess. I'll look it up, but while I'm telling you that, let me tell you the story of the day he died. This is going to really blow your mind.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna find his grave real quick, and then I will be able to I'll be able to tell you exactly.
It says he died August 21st, 1974, Adamsville, Tennessee.
So I had it right, 74. Okay,
Yep.
So August the 24th, check this out. This is going to really blow your mind.
Sure.
So we had Walking Tall Part 1. Y'all probably seen the original Walking Tall. And I even cried during the movie because they harmed this man's wife because he was trying to do the right stuff, right?
Right.
That's not what we believe happened at all. But as a kid, I cried, in the story. And they even remade it. The Rock remade the story.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And so anyway, Buford had negotiated to play himself in part 2 and part 3. Okay, about his story in Memphis on that day. He signed a contract for $2 million to do 2 more stories or 2 more movies. Drove back, went to the county fair down in Selmer, where the jail was. Was driving home drunk or inebriated, I believe inebriated, and died that night in a car wreck. Got ejected from his Corvette and ran off the road and got ejected, and the Corvette burned, but he died from his injuries.
Remarkable.
Yeah, which is
Go
pretty
ahead,
crazy.
Mikey.
I'm just I know I took you off the Elvis thing, but that was my point, was just that your channel, your YouTube channel, has more than just Elvis. It's Elvis and Friends or Elvis, etc., because you have these these stories of Southern interest, which is really interest to everybody, and fascinating stuff on your YouTube channel. I really enjoyed checking it out.
Well, I appreciate it. And the Buford story is fascinating. Another thing that I've filmed a lot, but I haven't put a lot out about, but I've studied it, is the Martin Luther King assassination.
Okay.
Um,
Oh yeah.
Absolutely a government hit, 100% a government hit.
Oh yeah,
And
we absolutely have that one on our docket. We're doing. We had a guest. In fact, it's funny. You would really like this guy, Billy. We had a guest on the show last night named Stuart Fillmore, former retired FBI guy, was on our show. We did Alcatraz last night. We had Ken Widener here, the nephew of Clarence and John Anglin, um, one the two of the three escapees. Interesting because he's going to join us for a couple more shows. I found this out today. One of those shows is the Kennedy assassination. The other is Martin Luther King.
mhm.
And I believe that was absolutely a hit from day one. It was a contracted hit, to the point where we even have the name of the real shooter. I digress. But what I'd like to do before I move on to the next subject matter is I would love for you to forward our information to Mike, and we'd
Sure
love to
will.
have him on here.
I sure will.
Um,
And Mike knows, he knows the Buford Pusser story backwards and forwards. Nobody knows. And I've even rode on they have these things where they put you on a bus and take you to each site. And Mike
Yeah.
tells the stories. I filmed that as well. I've been with Mike on those. And very, very interesting.
Billy, you recently, I'm guessing in the last year probably or so, you did a meet and greet with Ginger Alden. And my
That's true.
understanding is that there was some controversy generated from that meet and greet with a number of things that Ginger said about Priscilla, concerning Priscilla and her relationship with Elvis. Apparently and allegedly, and we have to caveat this, folks. We have a number of people. We are on satellite tonight, Billy. There's 17 million households that we're
Wow.
broadcasting to. So there's a substantial audience. And I want to make sure that we get this right. The caveat is that according to Ginger, Elvis said certain things concerning his marriage to Priscilla, of which she wasn't shy of sharing with any number of people. You sat with her. You asked her questions. You were part of this meet and greet. Okay.
Yeah, I did an interview with Ginger. Yeah.
Okay.
Now,
What
at
is
my
your
dojo,
take?
at my museum.
Yeah. And so, what is your take on the sincerity level, the believability level? Give me what because you're a guy, you got a pretty keen sense about you.
Well, there parts of this I'm not going to comment on.
I understand why.
And because, and because I'll preface it by saying this:
Mhm.
I am friends with everybody.
Yeah.
The Elvis world likes to exclude people, and what I mean is, you've got people that are Ginger fans that hate Priscilla. You got people that are Priscilla fans that hate Ginger. You got people that hate Linda. You got people that hate this one and that one. If you start taking people out of the story, it's no longer the story.
There's
You know,
no
you
story. Yeah.
You can't remove pieces of a puzzle. It's a puzzle.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's parts of everybody's story that I believe and disbelieve. I will say this, that I think that everybody is going to be the hero in their own story when they tell their story. I think is a nice way of saying it. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean that anybody's lying or anybody is being nefarious in what and how they're handling or what they're saying. I think that there's a lot of things that can affect your memory, and so I think that people may think that they're being truthful when they have convinced themselves of things that are not necessarily truthful. And what I'm saying is, I don't think people necessarily, and I'm using the word people wide because I've interviewed a lot of people in this Elvis story, so it's a wide net.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of people have edited to make things seem better than they were. You know, I mentioned that I romanticized the Elvis story. As
Sure.
a young man, I thought, man, how cool is this?
Yeah.
You know, this guy's got a mansion and he's got beautiful women and he's got cars and he can give away cars and houses and people adore him. The reality now, as a grown man, you know, I'm 61 years old, and as an adult, having met a good portion of the people in this story and know a lot of them personally and
Yeah.
interviewed a lot of people, it wasn't romantic at all. It was a trap, I believe, for Elvis in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. I
And
concur with you, my friend. I really, really do.
I
Billy,
think
I am
that it
much
got
more
bad for him, you know.
I am much more connected to the Elvis world than I'm letting on, and have been for more than 50 years, directly involved with some of the players. In some cases, intimately involved with the players. And I will tell you that I know people that attended that dojo meet and greet, that question and answer session.
Hmm.
We're going to see the dojo in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
And I will tell you that the woman I know who went into this came out with a diversely construed opinion of what she thought Ginger Alden was.
Hmm. Are you
She
saying
went in
positive or negative?
quite negative,
Really?
quite negative.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I'll pardon my language, folks, but she said, I'm going to tell you what she said, and almost verbatim. She's a lying bitch, is what she
Hmm.
said. Basically, is what she said.
And I will
Now
say,
I
I
don't
will
know.
go
I
this
can't.
far. I'm trying to
Yeah,
temper this, but I will go this far.
yeah,
I spent some time with Ginger, you know, multiple
yeah.
times. Um, I came out the other way. And, you
Okay.
know, because whenever I will say this, when I interview people,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm talking about any person, I'm
Yep.
always listening for things that they say that I know are not factual. What I'm saying
Yeah.
is there's certain things that I know are factual or not factual. So I'm
Yeah.
always listening. And so a lot of times at the end of an interview, I will go back, especially if I'm doing just me and them doing a camera interview at somebody's house,
Sure.
you know, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. I'll go back and even say to them, I'm going to run the camera, but if you tell me after the end of this you don't want me to use this, I won't use it, but I'd like to
Yeah.
know this, that kind of stuff. And you know, she's guarded. I'll give you that, very
Yeah.
guarded. Um, but I did not come out with the opinion that she was lying about a lot of stuff. And I actually did a show with Ginger as well. I did a show in Arkansas, in the Ozarks. I basically opened for Ginger. I came out and did my thing. She did her thing.
Sure.
Um, but no, I found her to be believable. But
Yeah.
it depends on what we're talking
Well, I
about.
mean,
You know.
I think essentially you laid the caveat beautifully in that there is this dichotomy, this disconnect between individuals it's just like the world that Mikey and I come from. We come from the world of professional wrestling, which is highly divided and quite divisible. And so you have it's just like in any story building, you have the baby face and you have the heel.
Hmm.
And people are making out, Priscilla to be the heel in some cases and the baby face in others. I'm not anyone's judge, nor will I will not issue, and I don't think Mikey will either, issue an opinion on that. Either not publicly, certainly we won't.
Well, I think
But yeah, go ahead, Mikey.
well, I think Billy put it best when he said it's a giant puzzle, and if you start trying to eliminate, girlfriends or wives or
Yeah.
associates from the Elvis story, then it's no longer the full story. I mean,
True.
a big case in point would be Colonel Tom is a very divisive figure. Some people
Yeah.
say he deserves a lot of credit for Elvis's success, and some people say he exploited Elvis. So the truth is probably both. But
Yeah.
I think the word perspective comes to my mind when you're talking about these people, and is that if you're a Ginger or Ginger's friends, of course you're going to see things her way. If you're Priscilla's
Sure.
family or friends, you're going to see things her way. But I think Billy probably has the best mantra, which is just try to be friends with everybody and respect the fact that these are a lot of heated opinions. There's a lot of fame on the line. There's a lot of
Yeah.
good favor on the line and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
humanity sometimes has different aspects that it brings out when the stakes are that high.
And Mikey, I believe that is the essence of Billy Stallings, the spa guy. Is, and I said it before, Billy, when I introduced you. You are a disarming individual. People like you, and people want to like you. I
Tell everybody.
admire your. I know it's true. I admire your tenacity. I admire the fact that you want to be everybody's friend, because there are a number of people, particularly in what we do in this medium, that don't want anybody to be their friend, and go out of their way to make waves, so to speak. Billy, one of the things you did with your many millions of dollars, you bought this broken down karate dojo that once belonged to Grandmaster Kongri and Elvis's the karate mentor. Why? What was the? I'm always wanting to say, what are you doing, kid? What are you doing? Why would you do that when you could
Well,
spend your money on something else?
well, that's a good question. For one thing, I believe that history is important. That'd be first. Um, I never set out to own a museum. That was not something that I had in my playbook of things that I wanted to accomplish. But basically, what happened is, my formula. I go places and I film stories. I find
Sure.
where something happened. I try to find a photograph or a video of Elvis or someone else being somewhere doing something. I try to go back to where that place is and show you what it looks like today and tell you what happened back then and kind of bring the story back to life. I
Yeah.
found that going physically to a place brings the story to life for me. Because what I'll do is I'll go in to a spot, then I'll go back and read the story that I read about that in the book,
Hmm.
wherever I found it, and it really brings it to life. Plus, you have a thing that I call geographic forensics. When you start finding in a person's life that they were at this point and they were here and they were there and they were here, it kind of starts painting a picture. Why were they at these places? And
Yeah.
so in this particular case, there's tons of photographic proof of Elvis being in that building. There's video proof of Elvis actually teaching lessons and doing
Yeah,
seminars,
you're
belt
going to
tests,
see it
and
in
all that.
about 30 seconds, Billy.
All right.
You're going to
And
see that in about what I'd
so I
like to
went
do.
to that building in 2018. I went probably 50 times. I never saw anybody there. Every time I go to Graceland, it's 2 blocks off of Elvis Presley Boulevard. I just cruise through there. One day I saw somebody there in 2018. I stopped and knocked on the door. They were very nice. They allowed me
Yeah.
in. I filmed. I talked to, it was a father and son that owned it. And the father, I think, was the main person. The son was there with his wife. And they were from Missouri, and they lived in the building. They did robotics.
Yeah.
And so the idea is they would come there and build robotics for manufacturing plants around Memphis. But
Yeah.
they had been doing that for 30 years. And
Wow.
they found that they really didn't need it in that building so much anymore. They were not using it all the time. That's why it was hard to find somebody there. So when I
Yeah.
talked to the father, his name's Ron, he said, I've been thinking of selling that building. And so I said, well, if that day ever comes, Ron, you call me first. And he did. And it was November of 2019. I got a phone call. It was this simple. Billy, it's Ron. Buildings for sale. Just want you to know. And I said, okay, Ron, I'll see what I can do. And so I started working on financing and designing and all that. And then COVID hit, early 2020.
Billy, I'm up against a hard break right now. I have to do this real quick, and we will be right back. If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction or alcohol dependency, help is available, recovery is possible, and you do not have to face this alone.
If you're tired of fighting shadows in the middle of the night, if you're carrying a burden that's become too much to fight, if the bottle or the needle feels like all that's left to hold, there's a hand that's reaching out to you before the night grows cold. You don't have to walk alone. You don't have to hide the pain. There's a road beyond the darkness. There's a chance to live again. We're one call away, one step, one day from a brand new. Got your coffee mugs lined up, morning pour in your hands. T-shirts fresh off the shelf, books you can hold and scan. Yeah, you know the name. Now you know the name. Bring it back again, grab one, grab two, show your crew the proof. Wear it, share it, keep that feeling true. Whoa, Mikey and the Mad Dog, say it out loud. Mikey and the Mad Dog, wear it with pride. Mikey and the Mad Dog,
It's WTBR Radio 88.7 live in Philadelphia. We are with Billy the Spa Guy Stallings and all things Elvis. Right now, I'm going to take you back in time, courtesy of the magic of videotape. Let's take a look at this.
So this is the dojo where Elvis used to practice karate. 3217 Luceville Road.
he had a black belt and a Memphis sword, a flash of lightning and a heart of gold. From Hollywood to the dojo floor, the king kept kicking, always wanting more. Elvis had the rhythm, Elvis had the fire, high kicks flying and the sparks climbing higher from the stage to the mat. He played his part, the king of rock and roll with the warrior's heart. Elvis had the rhythm, Elvis had the fire, high kicks flying and the sparks climbing higher from the stage to the mat. He played his part, the king of rock and roll with a warrior's heart.
All right. That song, by the way, is an original recording written by Mikey Messier and myself, the Mad Dog, and it's called Warrior King. And that is our gift to you, Billy Stallings. We are sending that song to you. You heard a small
Thank you.
clip. I'm giving the entire song.
Very
And
cool.
use it
Thank you.
as you will, and I hope you make some money. And Mikey and I are poor, so we could use them.
Then in that video that you saw, the guy with the black guitar, the one
Yes,
that
sir.
at the end of it he clapped, that's Dave Hebler. He was
Yes.
at the dojo during Elvis Week a couple of weeks ago. He's 89. He's
Yeah, I spoke to Dave
Still-
about 3 weeks ago. If everything works out and his health holds up, he will be on our show with us here.
nice.
Yeah, he's
And
he's
Dave's
an
an
interesting
example.
guy.
Dave's an example of someone that some Elvis fans hate because of the book. You know, the
Yeah, Elvis,
Elvis
what happened?
book.
Yeah,
But the reality is, if you actually read the book, compared to a lot of things that a lot of other people said that were actual
Yeah.
family, it's very, very, very diluted.
have to
It's
tell
very mild in the whole scheme
yeah.
of things. You
Billy,
know?
I have to tell you about that book, and I read it years ago. One of the things that I came away, my take was, it was a love story.
Yeah.
That book was a love story. It was these guys who knew this, this quirky kid. They used to play football with him. They used to hang out, smoke cigarettes. Yes, folks. Elvis used to smoke cigarettes. Don't tell Gladys, you know. But the thing about it is, and it's a simple proposition. They grew up with him. They took care of him. He was, in many ways, Elvis was, and you probably noticed, he was incapable of taking care of himself. The things that his mother did for him, he couldn't do for himself. And when she passed, God rest her soul, he was a lost soul. And he had nothing but his guys to take care of him, and more than abundant women, of course, that were all too willing to take care of him
Yes.
in many various ways.
There's
I'll digress from that.
a story from Palm Springs where Elvis would sleep usually till the afternoon. So the guys had left in the morning to go shopping or go do something. Elvis gets up, there's nobody there. He called a taxi, but he couldn't figure out how to open the gate.
Yeah,
So he had to climb over the gate, that kind of stuff. He never had to open the gate before.
yeah, that's a true story. I heard that story. In fact,
Yeah.
I heard Sonny West tell that story in a television special. That I think was maybe for HBO or one of those
Yeah.
pay channels.
That was Jack Warner's guest house is where that was. It was next door to Jack's house. Yeah.
Oh, all right. You saw in that video, and you see this place probably every day because I'm assuming that Gallatin, as I remember, Gallatin is not all that far from Memphis.
3.5 hours.
Well, relatively speaking, that's a pretty quick drive because Tennessee takes you 9 hours to get from Bristol to Memphis.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a long drive.
I've driven it so much, it happens like that now. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in Tennessee for 15 years, Billy. I lived in Rockwood, on top of a mountain. I lived in Cookville, and I was going to buy a house in Donaldson, but that deal fell through. Somebody outbid me, the little bastard. I had a house 2 doors away from Bill Anderson, Whispering Bill.
Whispering Bill.
Yeah, Whispering Bill Anderson. Is he still with us, or is he gone now?
I think Bill's passed. Mm-hmm.
Has he passed now? The
Pretty
guy
sure,
was a
yeah.
hell of a singer. We lost Dolly today. We did our little tribute to Dolly before you joined us.
I used to work on Dolly's hot tubs.
Memories
I've been
of
to
Dolly
Dolly's house
Parton.
many times.
Well, let's talk about that since we're paying tribute to Dolly
Mhm.
as well as and by the way, folks, if you're not familiar with television in Tennessee, there has been a long running commercial with Dolly and Elvis in the driving in a car. I know it's all special effects, but are they still running that? There's always been this Elvis Dolly connection. And
Yeah.
my understanding
I've not
is that
seen the commercial. Yeah, that I know
yeah,
of.
I actually, if I could get away with it, I'd like to play it for you, but I don't know if I might get a copyright strike.
Yeah.
Especially on YouTube. And I digress from that. But it's interesting that when you talk about Tennessee, Elvis and Dolly unilaterally come up.
Yeah.
Almost exclusively come up together.
Oh, they're icons. Yeah.
In addition to the the obvious iconic status of both of these great stars, what else other than maybe the music connects them? And I heard a story. Let me ask you about this story. There's a story that goes around that that Dolly Parton wrote a song for Elvis, but Colonel Parker wanted the publishing for it.
Yeah, Colonel Parker always wanted publishing. She wouldn't do it.
Okay,
I'll
do you
always
you
love
know
it.
what the story I'm talking about then?
Yeah, it's a
Okay,
true
would you
story.
tell the story,
Mhm.
please?
Well, it's just I always love you, and I don't know that she necessarily wrote it for Elvis, but they were talking about cutting it, but she would not give up half of her publishing. And so the Colonel always wanted publishing, which was a plus for Elvis. You know, it was additional money for Elvis. And they would even put writers in a situation where if you want to get more cuts with Elvis, you give us publishing on this, it was deals. And what publishing is there's two ways that a song pays as far as from a writer standpoint. One is as the writer's royalties, and then the other is publishing. So what's funny is I'm a songwriter, so I'm a BMI writer. And so as writers go, what I found funny when they back in the day, they used to send you a booklet that showed you how it worked. And they would say that it was 100% and 100%. Well, it can't be. It's 50-50 is what it is. So if you've got 20 cents and you're giving 10 cents to the writer and 10 cents to the publisher, then that can't be 200%. That's 100% split 50-50. But they tried to make it seem better than it actually was. And it was really only, from my memory, it was 9 cents for the writer from my memory. So if you got a cut on a million selling records, you made $90,000.
Yeah.
And, as a writer, and then the publisher would make money. And you could split publishing. And what I mean is you could have two people splitting that revenue from publishing, or you could split writing. So you could have two people, three people, four people splitting that money from the royalties there. And so the Colonel wanted Elvis to have publishing, and now bands are selling their publishing and all that kind of stuff for hundreds of millions of dollars. But
Crazy
Elvis
money.
had to sell it, and people blame the Colonel for it, but it was actually Elvis got himself in a financial bind over the divorce. Really, is what it was over.
Billy, you saw the film Elvis with the Austin
Yeah.
Butler.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, and honest question: did the film make Elvis look stupid? Did they make him look like a country bumpkin?
I thought it made him look miserable and not able to handle his own business, and that was not Elvis at all. That in my opinion, that movie is about 15% factual, about 85% just total bullcrap.
Billy, what was your take on the now nefarious accent that Tom Hanks? You're already
The
you're
Colonel
already
didn't
going.
have an accent. Yeah.
We know that, but
Yeah.
why would he play it like that?
I think they did it to because they wanted to make the Colonel a villain, and they were successful at that. The Colonel, I'm a believer, no Colonel, no Elvis. No matter how good a person is as a singer,
Yeah.
actor, whatever, it takes nobody can do what the Colonel did for him for themselves. You just can't.
Well, I like what Tom Hanks said. If there's no Colonel, there's no Elvis. But if there's no Elvis, there's no Colonel.
No, the Colonel was very successful before Elvis.
It's
You got to
interesting.
consider this guy came to America. I've been to where he was born in Breda in the Netherlands, in the northern part of the Netherlands. I've been to the spot where the house was where he was born. I filmed all that. It's all on my channel. And so this guy grew up there speaking Dutch. He was brave enough to get on a cruise ship and come to America and make his way. He had to learn to speak English. He joined the army. Now, he was he grew up doing things in the Netherlands. They did his dad raised horses for a kind of like a UPS, like a package delivery service.
Mm-hmm.
So they live with horses and all that. So he lived with animals and things. But this guy came here, learned to speak our language, did away with his accent. I don't know if you know many Dutch people, but I've got a lot of Dutch friends that speak English, but they speak with a very heavy Dutch accent. They're hard to understand speaking
Yeah.
English. This guy was able to overcome that. He before Elvis, he handled Eddie Arnold. He handled and at those times, Eddie Arnold and Hank Snow were the biggest of the big. They were the
Yeah.
biggest guys. He came from the Netherlands and came here and started handling those guys, and then ended up handling Elvis Presley. So you got to give it to him. He did miraculous things. You
Billy,
know,
what's your take on the story that the colonel may have killed a girl in the Netherlands and escaped to America to elude justice?
that's a great question, and I have the answer. So I went to Breda is how they pronounce it. I went to the Netherlands to Breda. I met a lady. I was trying to think of her name. Her first name is Ellen. Um, and she's a local tour guide. I was trying to pull up Ellen's last name, but it's such an odd name. It's not Smith or Jones. It's a very unusual Dutch name, so I can't think of
Right.
it. But very nice lady. And if you find my videos, I have her information down in the description. So if you ever want to go, she does tour guide stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we went and talked to the police, talked to detectives, and according to them, and of course we're talking about a case that's 75, 80 years old.
Yeah.
He was never even a person of interest. So that was completely made up to sell magazines. And then there was a guy that wrote it in a magazine, a Dutch magazine. And then, of course, we know that the American writer from Chicago added it to her books, which I believe was used to. My opinion is it was used to sell books. And it's a popular thing that people like. Recite to me a lot, and it's just simply not true. He was never a person of interest. In fact, he was not even in
Remarkable.
Breda at the time that those things happened. He was living in Rotterdam, which is not like jumping in a car and driving to Rotterdam. They took
Sure.
they took waterways between those two things, so that was a long trip. That wasn't a simple thing.
Yeah. Mikey Messier, final round of questions, my friend. You're going to take us home.
Well, Spa Guy, like I said, I was very intrigued and fascinated by your YouTube channel, and just wondering what's next on your YouTube channel. I believe you had Elvis Week on August 16th, but what's coming up for your channel? What can people look forward to, and tell them how to subscribe?
I haven't put out a video on the channel, a new video, in about 4 months. I'm taking a break right now. I'm working on some other things. I've got some apps that I'm developing. I've got an app that I finished. It's done, that I have not announced yet, but I will be announcing it soon. And I've got another one that is not finished that I've been working on for 7 years, a history app. So I'm spending time working on things like that. I'm also spending time on my business, on the Spa Guy business. I just added another website, so I'm doing some things to make that bigger. And I'm
When
also
the hell do
spending,
you have time to sleep, brother?
I work all the time, guys, and but I like to work, and that's why I was late doing this. I was actually out working on a hot tub, and a friend of mine
Yeah.
messaged me and said, "Hey, good luck on that podcast tonight." And I went, "What?" And I'm embarrassed to say this, but this doesn't speak very, very well for me. But I went and I looked at my phone and I looked at it and I went, "Oh man!" So I put my tools up real quick and threw them in the car and drove home.
Well, you are, my friend, you are a welcome guest here every time.
Yeah,
Billy
and
Stallings, the
so
Spa Guy.
I'm very sorry that I was late. It wasn't with
No,
it.
listen, there's nothing around here that can't be forgiven. Absolutely. Absolutely. promote
we want people to
yourself,
come to the dojo. The biggest thing is the dojo is open in Memphis. The website is tigermanmuseum.com. And we have private tours. We're open Friday, Saturday, Sunday for the most part. I may change that for the winter because, of course, attendance is down during the winter.
Yeah.
But
Sure.
if you happen to come to Memphis and we're not open, you can go on the website, book a private tour. We'll open the museum up, turn the lights on, and you can go through the museum on your own private time.
Beautiful.
And we're going to have things for January. We're going to have things for next August, which is the 50th of Elvis's passing. So next year will be a big, big year. And so I'm always working on stuff, and I'm filming. I'm just not, Mikey, I'm just not putting out, I'm not editing anything right now. Because, guys, I mean, y'all edit. Man, I was spending 20 hours a week editing.
Oh, yeah, it takes a while.
It does.
Yeah.
So I was working, doing the museum, running these businesses. You know, I've got multiple, I have 8 websites that we sell. I sell hot tub parts online. You know, I'm e-commerce is the main thing that we do.
Sure.
And so I'm very, very busy. So I have to kind of juggle things. And
Absolutely.
but I love to work and I love to tell stories and find information and share information. So I'm still going out and filming, and I'll get back to making videos again.
Good.
His name is Billy Stallings. He is the spa guy and all things Elvis. And if you need a hot tub, he's the guy. Hey, just go to the spa guy. He ain't hard to find.
Yeah, that's right. HotTubPartsOfAmerica.com.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mikey, what do you got coming up, my friend?
Well, I've been putting some time into my Ko-fi page. Ko-fi is kind of like Patreon, but a little more streamlined for video content and so forth. So my page is a pretty good one. It's ko-fi.com/MMA for Mike Messier Art. So that's kofi.com/MMA for Mike Messier Art. And of course, as you are always kind enough to mention, Angelo, the book, my novel, Fighter Play Basketball. We'll be talking about that in a few weeks. Fighter Play Basketball.
Absolutely. The audio book is available now, you guys. Mikey's book.
Yeah.
My books are available. Mikey's books are available. You got a bunch of them there too, brother.
Yeah, the other one is Bad Girls with Good Tattoos. And
I'm going to send a copy of that to Billy.
There you go.
Bad Girls with Good Tattoos. You'll love it. It's a real, it's a heartwarming story, Billy.
So
and Mikey and I will be guests on True Crime with former FBI agent Stuart Fillmore. We will also be guests on the Alcatraz family, their podcast, and I think it's called the Alcatraz Family podcast. And we will be guests on there, I believe, in the next 2 weeks. I have the date. We'll find out when they're going to bring us on. I think it's in a couple of weeks. I got a bunch of guest appearances coming for other shows. Mikey and I are planning additional shows for you guys here. We are this close. We're waiting for the ink to dry on the Tubi TV. That deal, and we will be on Tubi. We're already on Amazon Prime and a bunch of Roku and a bunch of streaming services all around the world, and we ain't hard to find either. Like my former co-host used to say, we're like horse shit. We're everywhere. Anyway, for Mikey, the movie maker Messier, for Billy the Spa Guy Stallings, I am Angelo, the Mad Dog DeCipio. This is What's the Buzz? Behind the Veil, Mikey and the Mad Dog signing off till next time. Lord willing and the creek don't rise. We'll see you again. Take care, folks.